Those are hammer-ons and pull-offs, and this is how you play it. Alright, enough of that. We know you can play it. Link is in the description, yada yada yada. That's not what we're here for today. We're gonna talk about hammer-ons and pull-offs. So hammer-on, the name literally tells you what you're doing. Hammering on, striking the note with your fretting finger. So one of the first challenges that a lot of beginners face is that their hammer-ons have no volume. Like that. So here are a few things that you can pay attention to when you're playing hammer-ons. So the first thing is location. You want to target generally somewhere in the middle in between the frets. You don't want to hammer on too close to the fret, otherwise it sounds like this. You see, you hear that buzz, right? You hear this like very kind of unpleasant fret buzz. You don't want that. We want to target somewhere in the middle, so you have the best chance of having a solid hammer-on. The next thing is you want to curve your finger. So you're striking the string with the tip of your finger. You don't want to flatten it, otherwise you will hit other notes and you will have more noises. You hear that? Now let me add a note that this is a personal preference. It is entirely possible to play without doing too much of a curving motion. If that is you, then please keep doing what works for you. Now the last tip is definitely the most important one, which is that you need to strike the note with enough speed and pressure. I don't want to use the word strength because it's not like we're using brute force to like press down so hard. We don't need that. You just need to make sure that you give it enough pressure and also enough speed. Because when you're hammering on too slowly, you're basically muting a note. And when you hammer on too lightly, you're also just muting the note. So you do want to make sure that you give it enough speed and that you're pressing down the note just enough. The pressure that you want to apply is exactly the same when you're playing any other notes. You don't need to press it down so hard. You just want to give off enough pressure so you can play the note. Now if you're still unsure how much pressure you need to add, do this experiment. Touch the string, don't do anything, just touch it and start plucking. Now you're playing dead notes, right? Now start applying pressure slowly on your fretting finger until you hear a solid note. Okay, that's about the pressure. It's honestly not that much pressure on my fretting finger. Now when it comes to pressure, you also want to make sure when you pluck the note, you want to give it enough force. You want to make sure that you exert enough energy into the string so when it vibrates and then you hammer on, the energy sustains. So like this. See, I barely apply any pressure on my fretting hand, but because I pluck the string so hard, I can basically just touch the string and still play a hammer-on. But obviously you don't want to excessively pluck every single note when you play hammer-on. That is just to deliver a concept. But with all that said, there is one universal challenge for a lot of people, which is this motion. Now if you're not used to this motion, what can you do? Unfortunately, there is no hack, there's no shortcut.
And there is no Queen of England.
There's just nothing that you can do other than just play a lot of music, play until you get used to this motion. But if you do want to do some specific finger exercise, be sure to leave in the comment and type finger exercise and let me know. Now when it comes to hammer-on, you can do all kinds of things with it. So the most basic application is play a fretted note, you fret a note, pluck it, and hammer on, right? You can also use hammer-on to play a chord. So I strum a E minor chord and I hammer on the G sharp note to play that E major. You can also use it as an embellishment. Like this is something that you will frequently see in neo-soul. And there's also a thing called hammer on from nowhere. Literally, you're not doing anything with your picking hand and you just hammer on a note. That's called hammer on from nowhere. Alright, let's move on to pull-offs. Now, hammering on, a lot of people can get, but pulling off is where more people struggle. Because when they pull off, nothing happens. And that's because the most common mistake that a lot of beginners do is that they literally lift off the finger off the fret. But there's a reason why this technique is called pull off and not lift off. So watch very closely to the string, like down here. When I play a pull off, you'll realize that the string moves. That's because I'm doing this hooking motion with my finger to pull the string down. So you're literally doing a pull off. It's basically the same thing as doing this. You know, you just pull the note and let it snap. That's basically the foundation of what you're doing when you do a pull off. You're pulling the string off in order to make it vibrate. So you really need to do that little pulling motion when you do pull off. The same thing with other finger. You see I'm doing that little hooking motion and you can see the string moving as well. Now, if I'm just doing a plain hammer on and lift off, you will notice that the strings don't move. And you will also realize the pulled off note isn't sustained or loud. Now here is proper pulled off. You see the string moving? Now here is just lifting off. So you need to do this hooking motion. Now when it comes to practicing, what can you do? Well, play, 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 and play. That is my belief when it comes to music education. You really just want to play as much as you can. So find a song that uses this technique. To be frank, that's probably every single guitar-focused songs. And just grab the portion that includes the hammer-on and pull-offs, maybe 1 or 2 bars, and just repeat that section a bunch of times. If it's too fast, slow it down. If it's too difficult, after you slow it down, then move on to something else. There are tons of options that you can play. One of the best examples is Metallica's Fade to Black. Now, if you want something very specific, you can play My Block, which is basically a very short song designed for you to practice one technique. And the example that I have here is called Steel, and it sounds like this. As you can hear, it's quite difficult. You're doing hammer-on pull-offs with all 3 fingers. You're also doing them in consecutive orders. If you're brand new and this is too challenging, no worries. All the blocks are divided into 3 different difficulties. That one's called Blaze and it is the hardest. Let's start with the easiest one called Breezy and let's see what it sounds like. As you can hear, that one is much easier. You're just doing hammer-on pull-offs with 1 finger at a time and alternating them. And it's also a lot slower, so you can get used to doing the hammer-on pull-off motion. Especially the pull-off, because this is all playing on open string, so you really want to do that hooking motion in order to get that pulled off to sound off. Now, if you're a bit more experienced, you can move on to the next difficulty, which is called Brisk. Now, as you can hear, this one is a little bit faster, and there's also a combination of a hammer-on pull-off with 2 fingers. At the end, you even do an index finger and pinky hammer-on pull-off combo. Now, if you want something to really train your pinky, check out the link down below. I have some extreme pinky exercises, but be sure to listen to the warning in that video. Now, if you're experienced, go ahead and play the Blaze level and just repeat a bunch of times to drill those hammer-on pull-offs motion. And this learning method is called chunking, which is the core of berry building blocks. It just means breaking down complex concept or tasks into smaller manageable chunks. And as I stated earlier, when it comes to music education, my belief is that the most effective way to do it is to have you play as much as you can. Because the reality is that it didn't take me long to tell you all this information. What is important is for you to do it repeatedly until it's in your body. So if that sounds interesting to you and if you want to try out those blocks, be sure to check out the link down below. And if you find this lesson helpful, be sure to share with your guitarist friend, like and subscribe to the channel, and let's start stacking your guitar skills 1 block at a time. I'll see you in the next video.